Imagine waking up to the sound of thunder that isn't from the sky, but from the heart of a battlefield hundreds of miles away. That thunder belongs to a new kind of power, one that could reshape the war in Ukraine and redefine global security as we know it. Former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, William B. Taylor, just revealed something that sent shockwaves through military circles. Ukraine can now purchase both long-range missiles and advanced air defense weapons from the United States, systems capable not only of shielding cities from Russian missiles, but also of striking deep into the heart of Putin's war machine. Think about that for a moment. After years of defensive fighting, Ukraine might finally hold the sword, not just the shield. These aren't just weapons, they're symbols of hope, of defiance, of a small nation standing tall against a nuclear giant. But let's pause. Can this new deal really change the tide of war, or will it push the world closer to the edge of something far darker? For over 3 years, Ukraine has endured bombardments, blackouts, and unbearable losses. Yet, with every missile that fell, something else rose: resilience. The same kind of resilience that now draws the attention of Washington, London, and Brussels. When Taylor said these sophisticated weapons would help Ukrainians defend themselves as well as strike deep into Russian military targets, he wasn't just talking about hardware. He was talking about leverage, about shifting the entire balance of deterrence. The weapons in question, long-range ATACMS, Patriot air defense systems, and potentially the Storm Shadow and Taurus missiles, can hit Russian launch sites, fuel depots, and command centers that once seemed untouchable. It's as if the board has been flipped in a high-stakes chess match, and suddenly Ukraine's pawns have turned into queens. But wait, here's the catch. What happens when you give a cornered bear less room to move? Does it retreat, or attack with everything it's got? Now imagine the tension in the Kremlin. Reports already suggest that Putin's inner circle is rattled, fearing strikes not just on occupied territories, but potentially inside Russia itself. Moscow's air defenses have been repositioned, radar coverage expanded, and yet Ukraine's drone and missile technology keeps finding the cracks. Could this be the beginning of a new phase, a phase where Ukraine no longer waits for Russia to strike first? It's a dangerous, thrilling, almost cinematic shift. But behind that cinematic tension lies the harsh reality: escalation. The U.S. move to allow Ukraine to buy these systems comes at a time when NATO's patience is thin and Russia's red lines are blurred beyond recognition. We're entering what military strategists call the gray zone, a moment where a single strike could decide whether diplomacy revives or the war explodes into something no one can control. And before we continue, here's a question to keep you thinking. If Ukraine finally gets the tools it needs to strike Russia's war factories, would that make Putin negotiate or unleash chaos in desperation? The answer might surprise you, and it could change how you see the entire conflict. But hold on to that thought, because in the next part, we'll dive deeper into what these weapons really mean, how they could rewrite the strategy of both sides, and why this decision might just be the boldest and most dangerous move of the decade. Stay with me. You'll want to hear this. Let's pick up right where we left off, because this next part is where things get truly explosive. Picture this: a Ukrainian long-range missile streaks across the night sky, guided by AI precision, evading jamming systems and radar nets, heading straight for a Russian military command post hundreds of kilometers away. Boom. The explosion lights up the horizon, not just physically, but politically. Suddenly, the message is clear. Ukraine is no longer fighting just to survive, it's fighting to win. That's the core of what William B. Taylor hinted at, the moment Ukraine shifts from endurance to dominance. But here's the twist. Every move forward also raises the stakes. Every successful strike deep inside Russian lines forces Moscow to rethink its next step. Do they escalate to scare NATO, or quietly back down to avoid a bigger disaster? The psychological impact of these new weapons might be as powerful as their physical destruction. For Ukrainian troops who fought with limited firepower for years, these missiles mean something deeper. They mean justice. They mean striking back at the sources of suffering, the bases, depots, and launchers that rained death on their homes. Yet for Putin, it's a nightmare scenario, a sign that Western patience is fading and Ukraine's capability is maturing faster than expected. The battlefield isn't just about soldiers anymore. It's about signals, perception, and timing. And this new move by Washington sends a signal loud enough for the world to hear. The era of hesitation is over. But here's where it gets chilling. Military analysts warn that Russia could interpret these deep strikes as attacks on its homeland sovereignty, potentially triggering nuclear posturing or cyber retaliation. A single miscalculation could spark a chain reaction across Europe. And that's what makes this story not just military news, but history in motion. Every decision, every missile, every word carries weight. It's the story of modern warfare, where technology, politics, and psychology collide in unpredictable ways. And maybe, just maybe, it's the story of how Ukraine finally breaks free from fear and steps into strength. Now, let's add a bit of humor to reset your brain because yes, somewhere in Moscow, a general is probably Googling how to hide from ATACMS right now. But jokes aside, the world is holding its breath. Will this US move lead to peace through strength or a new storm through escalation? That's the cliffhanger of our age. The answer lies not in the weapons themselves, but in how wisely they're used. So here's your takeaway. History is unfolding and we're living through it. Whether you support or question these moves, one thing is certain. The war in Ukraine is entering a defining chapter. The kind of chapter that will be studied, debated, and remembered for generations. And if you thought this was intense, wait until you hear what's next. Because in our next video, we'll uncover how AI warfare and autonomous drones are silently changing every battlefield rule we thought we knew. You don't want to miss it, so hit that like button, subscribe, and join me there. The future of war and peace might depend on what happens next.